Hey everybody, this is Michael Thurman. Just wanted to say thank you for tuning into another episode of Can't Stop Snapping. Before we dive into today's episode of breaking down the 3-cost cards, just wanted to give a couple updates and bring up a couple of things. One, several of you have given me feedback that my microphone quality is not up to par with some of the guests I've had on the show, and that is duly noted. I have a new microphone coming, so I thank you for sticking with us, even though we've maybe had some audio difficulties over the past couple of episodes. Look forward to next week having the next episode being recorded with a new microphone. So appreciate the feedback. Make sure to drop that feedback at can't_stop_snap on Twitter. Secondly, we have a news update. The first official season of Marvel Snap started yesterday, June 6th. It is Atlantis Beach Club is the name of the season. There is a new card that is released with the season. Wave is a 3-cost, 3-power card, and her ability reads, when revealed, makes both players' cards cost 4 next turn. So I think this is an interesting card. Basically, if you have 5 or 6 cost cards in your hand, and you play this on turn 3, well, the next turn, you could play one of those higher cost cards earlier in the game, and being able to get some of those abilities out earlier in the game where the game is so short could really have a large impact. So, if you want to know more about the season pass, make sure to go on the official Marvel Snap Discord. There's a lot of conversation going around about it right now. But without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Hey everybody, we are back with another episode of Can't Stop Snapping. We're continuing our series of breaking down all the cards that are currently in the game. This week's episode, we are breaking down all of the 3-cost cards. I am joined again by another great guest host. I'm here with Untitled. Andy is a streamer on Twitch. He's been streaming the game a ton since beta launched, and I'm excited to have him here. Andy, thank you for being here.
Dude, Michael, thank you for having us. We really appreciate that. It means a lot. It's a really nice compliment to be asked to do something like this.
No, compliments to you. I caught a couple of your streams here and there, and I thought it would be great to have you on the show. And I'm trying to bring a bunch of different creators onto the show here to break down these cards. So glad you're here. So before we dive into our breakdown of cards and talking about the 3-cost cards on this episode, I just want to get your overall impressions really quick. You've had over a week now, I think, with the game. You've been able to obviously play a lot. What are your impressions thus far? What are you loving? What are you maybe not loving? Just tell us how you're feeling about the game.
Well, this could actually be a little bit longer of an answer than I think you're expecting. We've had the game now since May of last year because I was actually an alpha player. We have a friend over at Second Dinner. We got the invite to do the alpha. I've been playing this game for a long time. So it's kind of given us a lot of insight into the game that some of the other players don't quite have yet. They're learning. You can see it, and I can see it. But the funny thing is people's collections haven't filled out yet. So we haven't seen the true potential of this card game. But my overall thoughts are, during the alpha, it was really hard to judge whether or not I was going to like the game. I'll be 100% honest about that. My biggest concerns were, when I play games, I really like to outplay people. I like to have those big brain moments where I feel like, God, I outplayed the crap out of this guy, and it feels so good. And I was afraid that wasn't going to happen. I didn't see it. But now that there are real people in the game making real human decisions, not that the bots don't make good decisions. Actually, the AI gets stronger and their decks get stronger as you go up. But boy, as cards get added to this game, I really can't wait to be playing it. I think, honestly, if you compared this to other trading card games out there, they've made something really special here.
Awesome. No, I couldn't agree more. On these episodes we've been doing thus far, some of the discussion we're going to have is really kind of breaking down what's happening in the current meta in the beta. But like you're saying, there's things maybe we're going to have to theory craft a little bit about because people are still unlocking their collection. Some of these cards aren't seeing a lot of play yet. So there's a lot of fun things we can talk about and theorize here. So awesome. Thank you for kind of giving us your general thoughts. And we're glad to have you on where you've had so much experience with the game. So We're going to break down the cards like we have been on the last couple of episodes. I will be kind of going over the name of the card, the cost of the card, the power of the card, and the ability of the card. And we'll maybe talk more about certain cards, maybe less about other cards, but we're going to cover every single 3-cost card. But I know before we dive into that, Andy, I believe you wanted to just give kind of a general tip to the listeners here about your thoughts about 3-cost cards.
Yes, a general tip that I want to give everyone about playing 3 costs is many of these 3-cost cards have game-winning effects all on their own. Guys, don't count out playing 2 3-costs on turn 6. Don't count out playing a 3-cost on turn 4 or 5 and losing that extra energy. People are so ape-brained where they need to mana curve out. You guys will miss out on a lot of opportunities to get a lot of value out of these 3 costs if you're not patient.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. I've seen in several matches where somebody went for the six mana card at the end, and really they maybe had a 3 and a 2 in their hand that really could have turned the tide. So you definitely have to keep your options open. So let's dive in here. So we're going to go through the list as we have been doing. We're using marvelsnap.io. A member of the community has created this website as a database of the cards. So if you'd like to follow along, make sure to get on marvelsnap.io and you can follow along with the cards. So our first card to talk about today is Bishop. Bishop's one of the cards you get early on in the game. Bishop is a 3-cost, 2-power card, and his ability reads, when you play a card, this gains 1+ power. Andy, I've seen this played. Everybody's played this at least a couple of times because you get it so early. What are your general impressions of Bishop?
Well, so here's the thing. We kind of always compare power on 3 costs to the baseline, which is Cyclops. We'll talk about him later. So 4 power is your vanilla card. 5 power is kind of where the card starts being kind of strong. Bishop, now he's an extremely powerful card when you use him in a zoo deck or any type of deck where you're trying to buff your own cards. He's guaranteed to be at least 3/5 if you're playing him on turn 3. But oftentimes he's lot stronger than that, so that makes him extremely powerful card.
Yeah, right now he seems like a good card to put in any deck where you're going to get a lot of play on the board, and get him in early, and you're going to grow him over the course of the game.
Yeah, his power is inherent, so he can't be countered by things that remove effects.
Exactly. Great point. Up next, we have Black Cat. Black Cat, she is a 3-cost, 6-power card, kind of talking to that curve of power you mentioned. She's on the higher end. Her ability reads, if this is in your hand at the end of your turn, discard it. So obviously the higher power, but kind of a trade-off with the ability here.
Yeah, so you are seeing that extra power bump for it. And I don't think this card's going to see a lot of value now. But it is a free discard in discard decks. But power-wise, it's really not bad. If you draw the card due to a card or a location effect, though, at the end of the turn, you're going to be in really bad shape. Or if you draw this on turn 1 or 2.
Yeah, exactly. There is some risk, but like you say, in a discard deck where you want to bring some stuff back from the discard, this could be a potential addition.
Yeah, it has a strong value with Ghost Rider, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah, 100%. Up next, Brood. Brood is another card I think we've just seen a lot of play, at least initially, because people get the card so early on. Brood is a 3-cost, 2-power card, and Brood's ability reads, on reveal, add 2 Brood links to this location with the same power. So essentially, you play Brood to the 2 additional Brood links to the same location, so you're filling out 3 spots with 1 card, but you do get a base total power of 6 power. Obviously, if you're able to buff Brood ahead of time, then that could be more.
Yeah, so I'm not actually certain if Brood is in the pool 1 pool of cards. So if you get him, I believe it's in the second pool. But essentially, Brood is a bigger or a larger Mr. Sinister. The card's going to combo heavily with other cards that buff it. So, we're going to see a lot of potential future combos with this. Really, Beast is going to be an awesome card to play on at Cerebro, things like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Up next, we have Captain America. Now, I'm a little torn on this. I'll let you say your thoughts on this first, but I'll just read the ability and the power. So Captain America is a 3-cost, 3-power card, and his ability reads, ongoing, your other cards at this location have 1+ power. Before I give you my thoughts, what are your thoughts on Captain America as a playable card?
Well, so Captain America, I think, is probably one of the best value cards you can play if you plan on filling that location. And the reason for that is this: a lot of cards, in order to get their full value, like let's say, for example, Wolfsbane, you have to play them late in the game, but you can pre-play Captain America on turn 3 and still get that 6 value. He does have a weakness, though. It's that you have to fill the location to get the full value, and also he is susceptible to Enchantress.
That is very true, to cut off that ongoing ability. Has a similar flavor to Ant-Man, right? Where you get that buff once you fill that location, which is very doable in a lot of games. So I think he has some things going for him. Obviously it's kind of 1 power per card at this location. You can have a max of 4 cards, obviously, at a location. So that buff does kind of max out, but a 3-drop 6 power card ultimately, is not that bad to have in a deck.
Sure. Well, why were you torn on that card though?
It's not that I think it's bad. I just think there are other cards, Blue Marvel, that do things similar, or Ant-Man that's a lower cost to play, that maybe in my mind are slightly better. Definitely not saying Captain America's bad, but
sure, no, that's understandable.
But similar abilities that maybe if you're going for that, you could have a better card that does the same thing, is my thought.
Sure.
Up next, we have Cerebro. So Cerebro is a 3-cost, 0 power card, and Cerebro's ability is another ongoing ability that reads, your highest power cards, emphasis on the plural, get +2 power. Obviously, anybody coming into this who made a mistake, I just did and read that as card, when I stuttered, obviously would think that's not good, but cards. So your highest power cards, meaning if there are multiple that share that highest power, would all get buffed with a +2 here.
So before I give my thoughts, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this card.
Again, I think this has the potential, to be good if you're going for a lot of cards that will have a similar high power level, if that makes sense. Like maybe most of your cards are a base 3 or 4 power, and you can get that pretty consistently, several of them on the board. I think it's good because then you're getting that +2 power multiplied by several. But obviously, if you have one card that's going to be much higher than the other ones, then that +2 power for this 3-cost 0 power card can be kind of a bad trade-off, in my opinion.
Right. So this card is kind of like a sleeper right now because a lot of people don't have the cards to make the deck around this. But a little background info, this was one of the most difficult decks to beat in the alpha.
Interesting. That is interesting to hear. I'm excited now that you say that, to see what will come of this later on. What combinations can be played. So interesting insider information. Let's keep going here. We've got Colleen Wing here. She is a 3-cost 5 power card, and her ability is on reveal, discard the lowest cost card from your hand. Obviously playing into the discard archetype. We've seen others that, can discard the highest cost card, or there's other in lower cost tiers that discard random cards. So this does have a little bit more of a guarantee because you can kind of control what the lowest cost card in your hand is, right? Later in the game. So, kind of an interesting in the middle play in my mind there in the discard archetype.
So my thoughts on this is actually a really strong card in the discard archetype only. And that's because if you think about the cards that you discard that are low cost, really Colleen's looking to discard Morbius, I believe is the card where if you discard them, it comes back to your hand as with 2 of them as 0 costs. That's really why she exists. But as far as other cards that you're discarding, she's still pretty strong power.
Yeah, she is that 5 level, which is obviously higher than several of the cards we've looked at thus
similar
far.
to a Deathlock, we'll talk about later.
Yeah, we're almost down there to the D's. So continuing on with the C's, we have Cosmo next. Cosmo is a 3-cost, 3-power card, and Cosmo's ability reads ongoing. On reveal abilities won't happen at this location. So this is definitely something to help lock out your opponent of a strategy that's based around several different on reveal abilities.
So listen, Cosmo is a deck's best friend.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, if you think Odin decks are annoying now, just wait until people start filling out their collections. There are a ton of on reveals to come. But also, people think, okay, well, I have this as a hard counter for Odin and Nova decks, which are very, very popular decks in the meta right now. But just remember, Cosmo is also a protective play for your other ongoing effects. If you play Cosmo on Devil Dinosaur, on Iron Man, on some of these new cards like a Mystique, you are going to protect your cards from Enchantress.
Yeah, which is a very interesting kind of self combo to you know, like you're saying, it's kind of an offensive defensive card in that sense, right?
It's a great card. It's a really great card.
Yeah. Yeah, I've started to see a couple more people put this in the deck over the last couple of days as I've been catching streams, so that's exciting to see. Up next is everybody's favorite card, that is said sarcastically. Cyclops is a 3-cost, 4-power card, which, 4 power is not bad, but Cyclops is kind of our first card here in the 3 drops that does not have an ability. We kind of have one of these for each cost here. He just has descriptive text that says, "Let's move, X-Men." He's just kind of a card to be replaced, essentially, at least in the most basic form, right? You get him early, and then he can be replaced. I've talked about this on other episodes, Andy. There's a card or two, and there's a location that will buff cards without abilities. But to me, right now, I just don't think those are really strong enough to make a solid deck that's better than something else out there right now.
Yeah, so obviously Cyclops doesn't really have a place in the meta unless, as we saw sometime last week when Washington, D.C. was the featured location. And then if you have Patriot, which we'll talk about a little bit later, he can actually become a lot stronger. Think about playing it this way. If you moon girled him, you have the opportunity to play 14 power with dual Cyclopses on turn 6. That's going to out power an America Chavez, an Agatha Harkness, a Hulk. So while it doesn't have a place in most normal decks, there are places for it.
Yeah, definitely not forgotten. I think, like you said, that with the featured location, Washington, D.C., or similar locations exist in the future, definitely could be kind of in the mini meta more frequently as those are featured locations in the game. Up next, we have Deathlock. You've already referenced Deathlock, I believe, a little bit. Deathlock is a 3-cost, 5-power card. It reads, on reveal, destroy your other cards at this location. Have you used Deathlock at all, or have you been seeing a lot of people using Deathlock?
I actually have Deathlock in my Destruction deck. That got us to Omega last night. We're hoping to get to Infinite soon, but Deathlock is actually a lot better than I think people think. Especially, you can play him on locations that you don't have cards at. You can play it to destroy -2 ninjas, and you can use it to proc your Nova, amongst other things. So I think it's a very strong 3-cost for at least the destruction deck archetype for sure. I don't know if he has a lot of other value unless you get Green Goblin or Hobgoblin, guys. That could turn a game.
Yeah, that could be a huge flip with getting rid of the negative and then adding obviously a 5 power, which is relatively high. So okay, moving on, we have Debris. She is a 3-cost, 3-power card, and her ability reads, on reveal, add a rock to each other location for both players. In the 1-cost episode, the 2-cost episode, obviously there's various cards that interact with rocks. Just for listeners, in case you don't know, a rock is a 1-cost, 0-power card to either kind of spam the opponent's board or their hand or their deck to maybe throw off some of their ramp and some of their play. But this one's different than some of the other ones we covered. Most of the other ones either place the rocks into hands or into decks. This one will actually, force the other player to add rocks to the location, but will also add rocks to your side of the board.
So debris definitely fits into this Nova or this Zoo deck archetype, but it's actually one of my favorite cards. And the reason for that is it does have a very powerful effect that can win games all on its own. She's filling your opponent's locations. You can use that to fill them before they're ready. Um, there are definitely locations like ones where you can only play one card per turn. Um, things like that, where or playing at turn 5 so they can't 6 drop. Guys, that can win games with a single card, a 3 cost card. You know, playing that on turn 5 and giving up that 2 extra energy might feel bad, but preventing a 6 drop so you can drop your big card for a guaranteed win on a location can be huge.
Yeah, I mean you're touching some of the stuff that's the most exciting to me about the game. There's playing the cards, crafting your strategy, but there's this whole board control aspect, right? Where you are bluffing with your opponent, you're messing with your opponent, and really, like you're saying, locking out or disrupting a part of the board can really be the determining factor in winning a game. So, totally hear you there. Up next, we have Devil Dinosaur. I've seen a lot of Devil Dinosaur play. I'm sure you have too. Devil Dinosaur is a 3-cost, 0 power card initially. His ability, I guess I should say his or her, not a gender dinosaur. Ongoing, +2 power for each card in your hand. I've seen this played a lot with Moon Girl, which obviously duplicates your hand. And there's other cards to kind of max out maybe some of your draw or some of the conjured cards in your hand. Have you seen a lot of play with this? Have you been playing with this or done any combos with Devil Dinosaur?
Yeah, so we ran a Moon Girl Devil Dino combo for a long time. That's what got us to I'd say Diamond. Or so. We actually ran it with an Odin as well, and then we actually switched that out for America Chavez Iron Man. But we wanted multiple win conditions in our deck. You know, Devil Dino has just been rampaging through the meta right now, and we all know how powerful that card is with Moon Girl. However, I just want to point out that on turn 6, with a full hand, 2 double dinosaurs is worth 20 power. 20 power. Also, that Sentinel has a low key synergy with Devil Dinosaur by allowing you to constantly feed your hand turn over turn. Just make sure you guys are either protecting it with a Cosmo. You can pre-play the Cosmo, or if you're first to play, you can play it after. But look out for that Enchantress play because that will ruin your day.
Yeah, that really will. I definitely caught a game earlier today. I believe with Specimen was streaming, and he had that exact combo, right? He had Sentinel and a Moon Girl, so he's able to double the deck, play multiple Sentinels, get 2 Devil Dinos at the end, right? And it really blows up there at the end. Tons of power on the board. Up next, we have Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is a 3-cost, 2-power card, and his ability is on reveal, move your highest power cards, plural, to this location. I believe Doctor Strange, correct me if I'm wrong, is in a farther along pool of cards to unlock. So I haven't seen this one become as active as some of the cards you get in the first batch of cards, but obviously there is a move archetype or a potential for it. Not everybody has all the cards yet, but this would definitely play into being able to buff some cards that are able to buff off of moves.
Yeah, so I believe Doctor Strange is in the second pool of cards, but don't quote me on that. Not 100% sure. But Doctor Strange, you're going to see typically in movement decks, but he is a very powerful card due to his ability to move cards unexpectedly, and you can use this in non-movement archetypes because he moves the largest power card. You can think of him like a mini Heimdall who moves all of your cards to the left. Now, if you can catch your opponent off guard, let's say you're losing the location with a big card and you move, one of your larger cards. Let's say turn 6, 6-cost cards cost 1 less. So you've played your Hulk on a location, but you're still losing it. You can move that Hulk. So that can really change the game for you on turn 6.
Yeah, can really kind of sway the board in the direction you're hoping to. Up next, we have Electro. Electro is a 3-cost, 2-power card, and his ability is on reveal, +1 max energy. Ongoing, you can only play 1 card a turn. So obviously, in a game where you only have 6 turns, and so the max energy by turn 6 is 6, obviously, the cards that can add energy really can help you play more cards, right? You've kind of talked about for example, playing a 3-cost card on turn 5, turn 6, and having an extra energy, could be really beneficial to play multiple cards. That being said, Electro specifically locks you out from playing more than one card a turn. So that in some ways is lost unless you're able to obviously play like a 6 cost on turn 5, etc.
So let's think about this realistically. You know, if you're going to play an Electro, you're not going to have a ton of small cards in your hand. And the whole point of him is to get those high cost cards out a little sooner. Let's just take, for example, Leech, which removes all abilities from your opponent's hand. It costs 5. But if you play that on turn 4, that is so strong. It's just one example, but it's not the only application. There's a lot of cards that if they come out a turn early are going to be very strong. So look out for Electro.
Yeah, that is a great point. Thanks for adding that color to that. Up next,
I did my homework. Homework.
I appreciate it. Up next, we have Gambit. Gambit is a 3-cost, 1-power card. He discards a card from your hand and destroys a random enemy card. I believe this discard from your hand is random. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then obviously destroying the random enemy card is random as well. So obviously, again, we're talking about discard and destroy here. But with the randomness to it, obviously, certain RNG could be better than others depending on what gets discarded or what gets destroyed.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat that last part?
RNG could really kind of make this better or worse depending on, which enemy card gets destroyed. Obviously, if you play this at a location, well, it doesn't even say at a specific location, right? So it's really destroy a random enemy card somewhere on the board.
Okay, so yes, random enemy card. But I do believe that this is probably going to be one of the more powerful cards in the discard archetype. You just have to think about what card is going to get destroyed, especially if you're doing this on turn 6. It could be a card sitting on a lonely island like Namor, and that can really win games.
Yeah, definitely. Up next, we have Ghost Rider, another one you'd mentioned previously in conversation about another card. Ghost Rider is a 3-cost, 3-power card. His ability is on reveal, bring back one of your discarded cards to this location. So that's essentially a free play of a card that you've previously discarded, which to my mind seems very powerful. I mean, obviously, if you're able to discard especially a higher cost card somewhere early in the game, and you're able to bring it for free, maybe a 4, 5, 6-cost card for free, along with this Ghost Rider, I think that'd be very powerful in the discard archetype.
Yeah, so I believe it's going to be a very valuable card due to its ability to bring that card back from the graveyard. Sometimes playing discard decks is RNG reliant, but this card's going to take the RNG out of that equation. And it has similar power to other valuable cards such as Cosmo. So I think you're going to see a lot of value in this card.
Yeah, 100% agree. Right here, I believe this is an unreleased card. We're looking here at the list. We had one of these in the 2-cost episode as well. I don't think this is actually a card we know a ton about unless you tell me if you know differently. But my understanding is this card we don't know the ability of this card yet.
So I have to say that I can't say much about this card, even about its existence, because it hasn't been discovered in the wild yet. And when I played the alpha, I signed a non-disclosure agreement. So I'm really trying not to get sued to death by Marvel.
No, totally get that. And that's why I'm not saying the name of the card here on the stream. So you are good to go. We will just continue on here. So up next, we have Green Goblin. Green Goblin is a 3-cost, -3 power, and his ability is, on reveal, your opponent gains control of this. So I really like this card as far as just really screwing up with your opponent's plans, right? You not only are taking away 3 power from them, but you are filling potentially a very precious spot on their board. with this Green Goblin.
Yeah, you really nailed it. I think a lot of people don't really care for this card, but I love its ability to fill locations. You know, one of the best examples of this is the location where only one card can be played. 3 energy for a free location. Yes, please.
Yeah, yeah, it really kind of locks in the victory. Locks in the victory for you there, unless they kind of have to derail and obviously do something to clear that location out, which can obviously throw off their ultimate plan. So. Up next here, we have Groot. I've started to see some more Groot play. Groot is a 3-cost, 3-power card. On reveal, if your opponent played a card here this turn, plus 3 power. Now, having already done episodes around the 1-cost cards, the 2-cost cards, we've already talked about a couple of the Guardians of the Galaxy cards. They all share kind of this similar ability where if you guess correctly where your opponent's going to play, you get some kind of buff or bonus card, etc. Personally, I'll just say out of all of them, I talked about this on the 2-cost episode that, I guess on the 1-cost and the 2-cost episode, but Rocket to me feels like the best Guardians of the Galaxy just because of the low cost and his buff, but I'm not sure where you fall on, is Groot good compared to the others, or is he a good card to play?
So guys, I actually hate Groot. I think he is the worst Guardian card, and that's because if you compare him to Star-Lord, he's essentially 1 more energy, 1 more cost, but has the same ability, just +3. Okay, so in my opinion, just run Star-Lord or any other 3-cost that you don't have to guess to get the power. And if you're asking me, my favorite Guardian is got to be Star-Lord, just because turn 2 it's a lot easier to guess where people are going to play, followed by Gamora, because typically at the end of the game, you know where people are going to play.
100%. Yeah, the options are much more limited of where your opponent's going to play at the end of the game. That makes a lot of sense. Up next, we have Hulkbuster. Hulkbuster is the 3-cost, 4-power card. The ability reads, on reveal, merge this card with a random friendly card at this location. I think there's a lot. I mean, it's a simple 1 sentence, but I think there's a lot to unpack here. I'll share my initial thought here. Obviously, one of the nice things about this card is you're able to add 4 power to the board, but not take up an additional slot, which could be very powerful for building up a lot of power in one location.
Well, so you got to correct me if I'm wrong here. Hulkbuster's most useful ability is that the card retains its ability after they merge. The easy example of this is going to be playing it on Nightcrawler before you move him.
Yeah, that is a great point. And that's, I believe, how I've seen it played and how it's working. And so, yeah, the other card is kind of the ability that remains after Hulkbuster has merged with them. But obviously, it is random. So like you say, in the case maybe you've played Nightcrawler down and he's the only card there, you can kind of guarantee you're going to merge there. If you already have a couple of cards at each location, once you draw Hulkbuster, then the randomness kind of takes effect. Okay, continuing on here, we have Ironheart. I've seen a lot of Ironheart play. I think she's powerful, but obviously we'll talk kind of the max power here. Ironheart is a 3-cost, 0-power card. Her ability is on reveal, give 3 other cards plus 2 power. So obviously you can buff cards. This is random. So if you've only played 3 other cards on the board, you can guarantee those are the 3 you're going to buff. If you have more than 3 cards, you may not get the buff you want on the specific card. Obviously looking at math-wise, right? If she's able to buff 3 full cards, then that is a 3-cost, 6-power drop. But if you have another card or location that's doubling her ability, I mean, that's 12 power right there.
Yeah, so Ironheart is a pretty good card due to the value you can get, similar to, let's say, Captain America or the Punisher. But you can have some difficulty getting its full value turn 3 if you've only played 1 1-cost, 1 2-cost. It also occupies a location without providing that location power. And just quickly, I need to say, it plays in combo with Odin a lot. And when you're thinking about cards you're playing with Odin, you have to focus. Am I getting power on the location where Odin is going to be played, or am I going to get power on the other locations where Odin's not being played, i.e. White Tiger? But we'll talk about that a little later as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. The connection there. So we'll talk about that when we get to that point. But up next we have Juggernaut. Juggernaut is a 3-cost, 3-power card. Juggernaut's ability is on reveal, if your opponent played cards here this turn, move them randomly. So another kind of you're having to guess where the opponent's going to play. I haven't seen a ton of Juggernaut personally. Not to say that people aren't using it or haven't unlocked them yet, but what are your thoughts on Juggernaut? I don't know if I have a really strong opinion.
Well, I don't think you're seeing Juggernaut because I don't think people have unlocked them. But when we're talking about 3 costs in general, he certainly has value on turn 3. But imagine playing him on turn 6, where an opponent thinks he's going to win. Just remember, though, the on reveal. I'm not 100% sure if the on reveal for their card happens before it gets removed, but use it wisely.
Yeah, that is a great point. Not sure how that plays out either, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see once more people unlock him, how he's used. Up next we have Killmonger. Killmonger is a 3-cost, 3-power card, same stat line. His ability is on reveal, destroy all 1-cost cards. So that is all sides of the board, all 1-cost cards that have been played. I think there's a lot of power in that, especially if you have 1-cost cards that you want to get rid of, and or you don't have 1-cost cards on the board, but your opponent does, right? Very powerful to clear out some abilities, clear out some cards on the board.
I'm actually dying to see Killmonger in this meta. I'm just imagining all the tears from all the Khazar players out there when this card finally finds its way into the meta.
Yeah, it'll be chaos. I think there'll be some frustration on the side of people this is being played against. Up next we have Kingpin. Kingpin is a 3-cost, 4-power card. Kingpin's ability is on reveal, next turn, destroy cards that move here. That's interesting. It's a unique ability. Obviously, you got the combination of some destruction going on as well as some movement going on. Again, I think this is one that comes, is unlocked in a later pool. I haven't seen a ton of Kingpin play, so I don't know if we've fully seen or understand all the combinations that will happen with Kingpin. But do you have any strong opinions either way on Kingpin?
Well, Kingpin is a hard counter to Heimdall and movement jacks in general. If you play this on turn 5, it guarantees that Heimdall cannot be played. If he moves 4 cards to that location, he's going to lose the game. That leaves yourself open to a huge turn 6 yourself, knowing that your opponent's 6 cost is out of commission.
Yeah. So really, kind of more of a an offensive defensive card where you're kind of locking down what your opponent's options are for the end of the game. Next up, we have Lockjaw. Lockjaw is a 3-cost, 2-power card. Lockjaw's ability is when you play a card here, swap it with a card in your deck. Obviously, I believe that's a random card in your deck, and this is not. I guess maybe you know this better than I do. It says when you play a card here. Is that it doesn't say ongoing, but essentially this can happen up to 3 times, right? If you were to play 3 different cards at this location.
Yeah. You know what? You got me a little confused here now because I had made different notes about this. I had thought that it replaced itself with another card in your deck, which would make it a better morph, but it looks as though when you play a card, you swap with any card in your deck. So if you have yourself flooded with 1 cost, this can see a lot of value.
Yeah. I've seen people unlock this card, but I guess, I just haven't seen a lot of people actually maybe play it. So, but definitely an interesting ability. Up next, we have Maximus. Maximus is a 3-cost, 7-power card, our highest base power card thus far in the 3 drops. Maximus's ability is on reveal, your opponent draws 2 cards. This is interesting, right? Because decks in Marvel Snap are only 12 cards. Over the course of the game, I believe you draw a total of 9 cards of your 12 cards if you don't have any additional draw. And so this would essentially allow your opponent to draw 11 of their 12 cards, right? Which, 7 power is nothing to shy away from, but, giving your opponent access to essentially their whole deck, could be bad. Obviously, that being said, to your point, I mean, we really need to be looking at these 3-cost cards on turn 6, right? Because an on-revealability, resolving at the end of the game isn't going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. He's a little more dangerous on turn 6. But there are cards that allow us to destroy cards in decks. And also, he counters Moon Girl. So if you see a Moon Girl, guys, you can make people overdraw. But you really have to predict that Moon Girl. So it's a really risky play there. I'd see him more on a turn 6 play.
Yeah, agreed. Up next, we have Mr. Fantastic. I believe Mr. Fantastic is one of the first cards unlocked in the game. So everybody's played with Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic is a 3-cost, 2-power card. His ability is ongoing. Adjacent locations have +2 power. So, pretty straightforward. Play him in the middle. You can get 2 power across every location on the board. Yeah, I mean, now that you've obviously unlocked a lot of cards and you're playing different decks, are you still using Mr. Fantastic at all? Do you still see value there?
I never even played Mr. Fantastic ever.
Interesting.
He's an excellent card because of his ability to win locations that can't be played on. And you want to be careful not to stack him on other ongoing cards because of that Enchantress. But I think a lot of other cards do his job better, which is going to be, for example, Scarlet Witch or Nightcrawler, things like that. But he does have some potential with Onslaught.
Yeah, that is a great point. Awesome. Well, let's keep going here through the M's. We've got Moon Girl. We've already name dropped Moon Girl probably 5 or 6 times by now. So Moon Girl is a 3-cost, 3-power card. Her ability is on reveal, duplicate your hand. I believe the max hand size is 7 cards, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so obviously having 3 cards will max or double to 6 cards, 4 cards would double to 7, max out there at 7. But I've seen a lot of Moon Girl play. We already talked a little bit about the Devil Dinosaur combo. But have you seen people playing Moon Girl with a lot of other combos?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to understand Moon Girl is by far one of the most powerful cards in this meta. She can duplicate Novas, which I run now in my destruction deck. My goal is to have multiple Novas, so you're not getting +2 to all cards, you're getting +4 to all cards. But you're going to see this card for a long time. One note I just want to make is when this duplicates your hand, it duplicates from left to right. So just keep that in mind. That
is very interesting. I hadn't caught that detail. So you may expect, I'm going to get these cards, but you may not get the ones you're looking for. So that is an interesting note. Up next, we have Moon Knight. Moon Knight is a 3-cost, 3-power card. His ability is on reveal, discard a card from each player's hand. I think this works well in the discard archetype. Obviously, you get the benefit if you're trying to pull cards from the discard or buff cards by discarding cards, etc. And you're throwing off your opponent, right? So it's kind of a combo play here. Could be playing into your strategy and throwing off your opponent's strategy at the same time.
Yeah, I think you pretty much covered all the bases there. It's a pretty strong card in that discard archetype. Because essentially you want to discard, your opponent doesn't. Good luck to your opponent when he discards his Odin. That'll win a game.
Yeah, 100%. It can definitely make the difference there near the end of the game. So up next is Morph. Morph is a 3-cost, 0-power card. His ability is on reveal, become a copy of a random card in your opponent's hand. This is my opinion. You may disagree, agree. I don't know. I don't think Morph, for me, isn't that great, isn't that strong. I mean, obviously, you may get a great card, but really, it completely depends on what they have in their hand at the time. If it's going to work with what strategy you're trying to play into or not play into, etc. So I think just the randomness here and not being aware of exactly what's in your opponent's hand really just makes this not good most of the time.
Yeah, those things do certainly weaken them, being reliant on RNG and having to scout your opponent's deck to know what they have. Although he does provide a little bit of scouting yourself because you know what's in your opponent's hand. Now, just one thing I want to say is he does get more value as the game goes on because people play their low cost cards first, so there's a higher likelihood of him having a higher power.
That's a great point. I've really appreciated these little insights you're bringing because that's definitely a piece that I hadn't considered, and probably several people haven't.
Bro,
Again,
did my homework.
Yeah, no, I mean, you said at the beginning, like we're also, if we've played card games like this before with a mana system and a ramp, we're so tied into using the mana, using the energy on the right turn to maximize and play a 3-cost card on a turn 3, etc. And so really we're going to have to really break the mold and break the thought process as the Marvel Snap meta continues to develop.
He's better on turn 5 because turn 6, the highest part is usually already played. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Up next is Mystique. Mystique is a 3-cost, 0-power card, and her ability is on reveal. If the last card you played has an ongoing ability, this card gains it. I think that's a great ability. I'm not sure. Have you unlocked Mystique yet?
I haven't, and I can't wait to.
Yeah, I think there's some really powerful ongoing abilities in this game already. I'm sure there'll be even more in the future. And being able to double that up at 3 cost can be very powerful.
Yeah, if you're seeing the synergy with the potential Devil Dinosaur here and the Moon Girl, you can also see how strong it would be playing 2 Mystiques and playing 2 Iron Mans on turn 6.
Oh man, that is
it's 3 Iron Mans on the board.
Yeah, that is I want that to happen. I need a picture of that of that happening. That's awesome. Up next is Nakia. Nakia is a 3-cost, 1-power card. Her ability is on reveal, give all cards in your hand +2 power. I'll let you start off here. I have my thoughts. What do you think about Nakia?
Nakia is an okay card. I have a hard time deciding if she's better than Okoi, which is her counterpart, because she doesn't need to be drawn specifically on turn 2 to have value, but the extra energy cost does make her a little bit restrictive.
Yeah, you kind of do have a trade-off there of being a higher cost card, but obviously, being able to buff several cards to be played later, she could add some significant power. But it kind of depends on when you draw her and when you're able to play her down, right? Yeah. Up next, we have Patriot. We talked about Patriot a little bit. Patriot is a 3-cost, 1-power card. Patriot's ability is ongoing. Your cards with no abilities have +2 power. So there are a few cards throughout the game that you can have in your deck that have no ability. There's also some cards that can be generated that don't have an ability. And so, being able to add kind of +2 power across a lot of the board if you have several of these cards would be very powerful compared to something, obviously Blue Marble is a 6-cost card and he can buff everything by 1. But this really just depends on if you have a lot of cards that don't have an ability on the board.
Yeah, he's pretty much the card version of Washington, D.C. Personally, in my opinion, I think this card should be available to players sooner, considering all the vanilla cards. But you are going to see rock deck archetypes out there, so Patriot will see some limited play.
Yeah, that is a great point. Up next is, actually, before we jump, this is just a funny side comment. I guess somebody in the official Discord, asked somebody from Second Dinner, the developers of the game, if they could get a rock as a user icon in the game, and I think the developer just kind of just laughed them off. But I think they're being 100% serious. I think a lot of people like the rock play. So
I know, that's so funny.
Yeah, I hope they do. I think the community would love it if they do add that at some point. So.
Oh my god.
Up next, we have Polaris. Polaris is a 3-cost, 5-power card. Polaris's ability is on reveal, move an opposing 1 or 2-cost card to this location. I think that's very interesting. We've seen things that are normally locked down to kind of 1 cost, like a specific cost that they do something on. with some of these abilities, but this kind of opens up any 1 or 2 cost card. And so, you know, usually people are running a few 1 and 2 cost cards in a deck, and so there's a potential to move several different cards that could be played with this card.
Yeah, I think the number one situation where you're going to see this be very strong is situation where Nightcrawlers move to a location where cards can't be played, and they think they've won that location.
Yeah, that is a good point. Up next, we have Rhino. Rhino is a 3-cost, 3-power card. Rhino's ability is on reveal, ruin this location. Essentially, ruining a location. You know, we've talked about locations. Locations each have an ability. It removes the ability of the location. You know, and this could open up a lot of possibilities, right? There's so much with the locations because you have 3 randomly picked for each match, and that's from a pool of about 50 to 60 right now. That'll obviously increase as time goes on, and so being able to you know, switch up kind of the strategy of an individual match with this card is an interesting thought in my ability. Or wow, let me say that again: an interesting ability in my thought.
Yeah, so Rhino, in my opinion, is just a higher cost version of Scarlet Witch. Sometimes Witch does have the unintended side effect of turning into a location that you don't want, but not enough to where I consider Rhino better than her. That cost is very high. However, if you dislike the RNG of Scarlet Witch, this is your guy. This card can win games with locations like TVA, game ends after turn 4, or playing him on turn 6 on Limbo when your opponent thinks turn 7 is going to happen. There's definitely others, but this card reminds us to think about countering locations, not just cards.
Yeah, you really have to play the whole board with all the cards. And I mean, again, just one of the things I love about Marvel Snap is really having to adapt to each match. So up next, we have Rogue. Rogue is a 3-cost, 1-power card. Her ability is on reveal, steal an ongoing ability from a random enemy card at this location. I think this is a very powerful card. We've already talked about the power of ongoing abilities, being able to get even more ongoing abilities. And this one, you know, specifically picks a random one, but it's from this location. So you can minimize the randomness a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think she's quite as powerful as Mystique, but she's you know, she's a 3-cost Iron Man, essentially. If you see an Iron Man on the board, this guy's gonna be around for a long time, likely.
Yeah. Up next, we have Sabretooth. Sabretooth is a 3-cost, 4-power card. Sabretooth's ability is when this is destroyed, return it to your hand. It costs 0. Obviously plays well into the destroy archetype. Have you used this in a destroy deck at all?
Yeah, I actually have Sabretooth, and I've used it a couple of times. I think it's best used when you destroy it and then hold it in hand till like the last turn because of its 0 cost.
Yeah, so you can kind of maximize your plays there on turn 6. Up next, we have Scorpion. Scorpion is a 3-cost, 3-power card. Scorpion's ability is on reveal, afflict cards in your opponent's hand with -1 power. You know, I don't know if I formed a strong opinion either way on Scorpion. Have you played with Scorpion? Do you have a thought for good, bad, middling?
Yeah, so Scorpion is kind of like sleeper. I think this card can be really amazing, depending on how many cards the opponent has, especially on turn 3. You know, it's going to counter Moon Girl to some degree. And while it may not seem like the strongest card, just remember, it only needs to apply to 3 cards in your opponent's hand to outpower Captain America.
Yeah, that is a great point. That is a great point when you kind of look at it from a cost perspective. Up next, we have Storm. I saw somebody today say Storm is their new favorite card that they've unlocked. They're really enjoying playing with Storm. Storm is a 3-cost, 2-power card. Storm's ability is on reveal, flood this location. Next turn is the last turn cards can be played here. I think this is interesting. I think any card that really kind of interacts with the locations, alters them, changes them, does something is very interesting. We don't have we have some. We don't have a ton right now. But obviously, Storm can lock out a location from your opponent.
Yeah, Storm is definitely a game changer. Can make it impossible for your opponents to catch up in certain locations, especially on certain turns. But the other huge benefit is that when you play her, she essentially destroys the location before the location procs. That's something to think about, especially like turn 6, bar with no name, where the person with the highest power here loses. It's a free win.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really interesting. I think it just plays into the beauty of the design of the locations and how the game plays. There's just so much you can do there. So up next we have the Punisher. The Punisher is a 3-cost, 2-power card. His ability is ongoing, +1 power for every enemy at this location. So it starts at a 2-power. If your opponent has 4 cards maxed out, it's a 3-cost, 6-power card.
Yeah, we talk about Punisher and Captain America as like kind of your base to judge what cards have the best power. And its full value is only 6 power, but only when enemies play cards at the location can be a huge deterrent for them to want to play there. But just be careful that you don't play it with Captain America as well, because you don't want an Enchantress to come in and ruin the day.
Yeah. You've mentioned that a lot of times, and Enchantress right now really does have the ability to counter a lot of strategies. So
yeah, I'm not doing the 4-cost, but that's probably one of my favorite cards in the deck. And actually, that's the voice of the Sound of Outburst's wife.
Oh yeah, interesting. Up next we have Venom. Venom is a 3-cost, 1-power card. Venom is ability is on reveal, destroy your other cards at this location, add their power to this card. So similar to Carnage in the fact that you're destroying your other cards at a location, different in the fact that all of their power kind of gets added to this card.
Yeah, so I think Venom's going to eventually replace Carnage when people get him. The reason Carnage is you get him sooner, because rather than having to set up a location for Nova, you can drop this combo anywhere without fearing losing value if you have strong cards there already.
Yeah, because it kind of sucks all the power into one spot, and then you can just fill in more spots in the card. So it's something you could potentially play earlier on and just build from there. So. Okay, we are down to our last 2 cards here. Up next, we have Vulture. Vulture is a 3-cost, 3-power card. Vulture's ability reads, when this card moves, +5 power. Just looking at that, if you get the buff, you are at a 3-cost, 8-power card. I think this will play really well into the move archetype.
Yeah, I think this is probably the strongest card in the move archetype. It's actually been changed since the alpha. It's an absolute beast in those movement decks. With Iron Fist moving him, and then Doctor Strange moving him again, that's essentially 13 power for 3 energy. I highly expect this card to be nerfed.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, once everybody's really unlocking all of the move cards, you don't want to be playing against a Vulture. So up next we have Wolfsbane, and this is actually the last 3-drop card here. So I've seen a lot of people playing Wolfsbane, another card that you unlock relatively early. Wolfsbane is a 3-cost, 1-power card, and the ability is on reveal, +2 power for each other card you have here. So ideally you want to have this be the 4th card played at the location, which would take it from a 1 power to a 7 power. Which I think is a pretty fair stat line.
Yeah, Wolfsbane is a pretty strong card. It is a little situational because it's slightly weaker than Captain America and Punisher. If you play it on turn 3, assuming you're only able to play 2 cards for its max power, 5 on 2 cards. However, 7 when it's played on 3 cards. So it has an additional nice synergy with Odin. But we have to remember that this card only helps win the location that Odin is played on, as it procs its card once that location is full. So it's often comboed with an Ironheart or a White Tiger in order to pressure other locations. So when you're playing that, but it can be an obvious place to play Cosmo if someone were to see Wolfsbane come in after an Ironheart or both on the same location. So just be careful about that.
Yeah, no, thank you for adding that extra thought on that kind of play. Well, those are all the 3-cost cards. We've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about how these play into other cards outside of the 3 drops, and so really appreciate the conversation here. Before we kind of wrap up here, though, Andy, I'd love to just take a minute. We've talked about a lot of 3-drop cards. I'd love to just hear, what is your favorite card? And that could be because of the strategy we've talked about. It could be just because you like the character, the art in the game. What is your favorite 3-drop card right now?
Oh, my favorite 3-drop card. God, that's such a hard question. I think I'm gonna have to go with Moon Girl, only because she is definitely an S+ tier. She's gonna be going into so many decks, but it's a tough call with that Mystique in there. So thank you again for having me. I know that was kind of a bit longer, but there are a lot of 3-cost cards. I think there's more 3 costs than any other costs, but I am not 100% about that.
Definitely more than 1 and 2 cost cards. I can confirm that. I'm not sure about the 4 and 5 and 6, but definitely one of the higher pools right now. So, well, Andy, I just want to say thank you again. I really appreciated having you. I think this has been a great conversation. I think the listeners are going to love it. Before we go, just for the people that are listening here to the podcast, just please tell the users where they can follow you, how they can support you, and how they can see the content that you're putting out.
Guys, the easiest way to support me right now is to just drop me a follow on Twitch. It doesn't cost you anything. My Twitch is iamandyrich. And, provided that things keep going the way they're going, we may be making a YouTube channel under the same name, TTV, I am Andy Rich. But guys, follow us so that we can have more people watching the stream. We have a lot of knowledge about this game, so if you guys like it, the only way for it to be seen is for us to have a following. Thanks again, though, for having us. We really appreciate it. It's really an honor to be here to talk about these cards in this game.
Yeah, no problem. Well, listeners, thank you again for listening. We will be back soon with more episodes breaking down the 4, 5, and 6 cards with additional content creators. So make sure to subscribe to the podcast so that you can be notified of those future episodes. Thank you for listening. Hey everybody, I wanted to jump in here for just a second to tell you about Anchor. Anchor is a tool that I am using to create this podcast and distribute it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and various other podcasting platforms. Anchor is an app you can download for free on the App Store and use to record, edit, add sound effects, etc., and distribute your podcast. I chose to use it because it was very simple to get up and going quickly, and it was free to use. If you have a podcast idea that you've been throwing around in your mind and you'd like to get out there, make sure to download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started and create your podcast today. Can't Stop Snapping is a podcast written, produced, recorded, and hosted by Michael Thurman. Thanks for listening.